All right, hi there. Within the realm of cognitive psychology, one of the topics that we can explore maybe a little more in depth is something called intelligence, right? And so, again, this is something that you're probably familiar with. You've heard of intelligence before. And what we want to do is just build on what you probably already know and see if we can get a deeper understanding of what it actually is. Okay, so as we do this, what we're going to find is that defining intelligence can actually be pretty difficult. Like, what does it mean to be intelligent? What does it mean to be quote unquote smart? We're going to see differences across the board. And what I hope we can get from all this as well is that maybe we should look beyond maybe what is the typical definition. Maybe there's different ways we can explain this. Maybe there are different ways in which we can understand how people can be smart. Okay? But that being said, if we look at the traditional view, we have something called your IQ, right? Your intelligence quotient. Okay, so just a few things about your IQ. What this is, I would almost want to see it as more of a comparison score. It's not necessarily how smart you are; it's how smart you are compared to people in your age group. Okay, so what it is that if you take an IQ test, you're really just trying to figure out what's called your mental age, right? And we're going to compare that to your chronological age. So chronological age, how old you actually are. Mental age is the intelligence level that you have gained based on and how that relates to a certain age. So what we're going to see is that IQ scores, the average IQ score is 100. Okay, and it's broken down onto a normal distribution that looks just like this. Right, so we have 100 right here in the middle, and then what we're going to see is that anything between 70 and 130 is considered to be normal or average. Okay, so varying degrees of that, but 95% of people are going to kind of be within that frame. So what we want to do is say, okay, we have an 8-year-old. That's their chronological age. They took an IQ test, and their mental age is 8. All right, we're going to do some math there, and we're going to figure out, okay, they're measuring right where they're supposed to be, so their IQ score is 100. Okay, but if you have an 8-year-old whose chronological age is 8, but mental age, they're a little more advanced, and it's at 10, well, their score is now going to be above 100. Okay, or if they're chronologically 8, but measuring at the mental age of a 6-year-old, well, their IQ score is going to be below 100. Okay? And IQ scores, when we look at it, anything below 70, someone is considered to have an intellectual disability, and then anything over 130, someone is considered to be genius level, right? So very gifted and talented in some kind of way. But again, the vast majority of people, 95% according to a normal distribution, we're going to be between 70 and 130. Okay? Now, intelligence tests have evolved over time. One of the first ones we have is from Alfred Binet. He was a French psychologist, and he developed the first intelligence test for a very specific reason. So at the time, the French government was expanding their education system, and they were going to make sure all children were being included, including those in more kind of rural or country areas. And so, anticipating a large influx of students, they wanted a way to measure how intelligent they were, what their capabilities were, and so they could get them to the proper level of schooling that they needed. So Alfred Binet created a test, and that was what it was used for. That same test is still used today, right? So the Stanford Binet is what it's called here in America. That's the English version of it, where someone can still take it, and it will give them a pretty accurate reading of what their IQ score is. Right? Now, during World War I and World War II, we did the same thing as the American government. We had all these soldiers coming in that wanted to volunteer and fight in the war effort. We needed a way to see what their capabilities were, right? So they went to the psychologists of the day, and they created what are called the Army Alpha and the Army Beta test, right? Same test. Only thing we're going to see is that one was for those who could read, and one needed to be orally for those who could not read. But best in your performance, boom. These are the job categories that you qualify for within the service. Fast forward to today, we're still doing the same thing. If you want to serve in the military, you can take the ASVAB, and based on your scores, you'll see with the different branches of the military, these are the different kind of job categories you qualify for. Okay? But again, what we want to see is, can we shift our perspective of what it means to be, again, quote unquote, smart? Are there other views out there that may be taken into consideration different abilities, or even do we see intelligence as something that's fixed, right? Is it something you're born with, and then what it is what it is throughout your whole entire life? Or do we have a chance to learn and to grow and to change it? Can we become smarter over time? Is that a possibility? We can see differences there. So one image, one kind of little comic thing I've always liked is this right here, right? So we can see all these different animals are being given a test, and the test giver right there saying it's a fair test because everyone has to do the same thing. And all they have to do is climb the tree, okay? All right, so just climb the tree. So the monkey is very happy because it's going to excel at that test. It's the only one that can technically climb the tree. Birds are going to fly up, so that's not going to count. All the other ones are either water-based or just don't have climbing abilities, like particularly the elephant's one that gets me the most. Okay? I love his face. So, are we going to say that an elephant is dumb or stupid just because it can't climb a tree? No. That's just a test that doesn't necessarily play to its strengths. So that's what we might see with traditional intelligence tests. If we too narrowly define what it means to be smart or intelligent, we may fail to capture all the other ways in which we can be gifted or talented. Okay, so there's a researcher, his name is Howard Gardner. He came up with his theory of multiple intelligences. He said there are multiple ways in which we can be smart or intelligent. He listed 8 of them, right? So you can see the different kind of categories here. We're going to see the things associated with traditional intelligence still as far as word smart and logic smart. But we're going to encompass more things like those who are very artistic, right? So those visual spatial skills. We're going to capture all the people who are athletes or otherwise good with their hands, with the bodily kinesthetic. What about the people who can sing or play an instrument like no one else can? That musical ability should be noted, right? And then what about those people who are very high in what's sometimes called emotional intelligence, that are really good at interacting with other people? That's the interpersonal intelligence, right? So he has a model that tries to encompass a little more of a broader range of what it means to be, quote unquote, smart. Okay, so I encourage everyone to kind of think of, to you, what is your definition of being smart? And then based on kind of some of the things that were discussed here, can we maybe shift that so it's a little more encompassing and holistic? And as we look at Gardner's model in particular, like where would you put yourself at as far as strengths and weaknesses across those